G'day, welcome to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. This time we are going to be continuing to look at some of the past heroes of the month. Specifically, we're going to look at the 5-star legendary purple hero, Sarge, the elite laser trooper. Now, Sarge was first introduced to the game as the featured hero of the month in April 2023. However, Sarge now is only available for summons during the Manor of Legends portal, which comes around once every 4 weeks. This portal does have pretty horrendous odds. It is the worst odds in the game of summoning a specific hero that you're looking for, particularly when they are non-featured, because they go into just a pool of a growing pool of old heroes of the month at a static 0.9% for any of them. The odds become slightly better when they're the featured hero, but even then they are still very, very low. The heroes, though, are only featured twice in the portal. So Sarge will be featured in January 2024, the current portal at the time of this recording, and then once more in January 2025. SGG may improve or expand the featured heroes to go again at some later stage, but at this point in time, that is the only times that Sarge will be featured in the portal. Flipping over, and we can take a look at his artwork. So shout out to Jugi and Juxtaposed Camel. These guys sent me the artwork when I was looking for it. So having a look at that, yeah, not too much to say. I'm not sure really how the laser trooper comes into it. I guess maybe it's a laser pistol he's got. Bit of a running action, some armor, no real armor of the lower half other than some shin guards, but yeah, so that's kind of his artwork. So feel free to pause the video, have a bit more detailed look if you so choose, but otherwise we'll head back over to the portal and his card. So being a past hero of the month, Sarge does not have any family bonus. None of the heroes of the month do. Maybe down the track, SGG will add one to the old heroes of the month, but at the time of this recording, there is no family bonus. In terms of his stats, Sarge has 755 attack, 715 defense, and 1403 HP. So he is part of the newer generation of heroes of the month, so his power and stat line is much higher than some of the original ones. And there is a little bit of a skewing from his defense stat towards his attack stat, but it is only marginal. It's not a massive skewing in this instance. His charge speed is set to 58, which is fast, and that requires 9 tiles to charge or 5 ghosted tiles. To get a speed break, you need to get +7 speed onto him, which is possible using the 5-star Explosion B90 gun. You can also achieve it using the Pearl-Scale Convex, which gives +6 improvement, but with that one you do need the 2% class emblem node at node 19. However, as I said, if you've got the Explosion, you don't really need it because you get there by default. +9 is greater than +7. Class-wise, Sarge is a member of the Assault class, which grants the chance to wound the enemy, applying 60% of normal damage done as an ailment over 5 turns. So it is normal damage, so this is tiles or slash attacks. The really good thing about the wound damage is that The really great thing about the wound damage is that it can stack with itself infinitely. So you can have 5 instances of wound going on an enemy at one time. It doesn't override itself or replace itself. So the other cool thing is that it does count as bleed damage, so it can trigger bleed burst from heroes like Ikwani. In terms of an emblem path, I would personally go with an attacking route. He is predominantly a damage dealing hero. His defense and HP, they are pretty alright at this stage, so I'm just going to go and pump attack into him in order to get even more damage output from him. So what that would look like on a hero, I'm just going to pull up Holden because he's purple and he's got a blank talent tree. Zoom out, please. There we go. And draw tool. So what this would look like on a card is we'd be going left and then right. I would probably come right to pick up the percentage based attack node, but also because that increased healing node is really woeful. Come back right, then go left, then left again, and probably finish off at +18. You could go to +19 if you wanted to get that speed node, but if you've got the Explosion DB90, you don't really need the 2%, so I'd be leaving him at +18, which is the final attack node in his tree. Cool, so heading back to the portal. Oh, hello, someone raided me. And we'll continue down his card. So moving on to his special skill. So his special skill is titled Laser Frag. And at level 10 skill and 58 charge speed will deal 200% damage to all enemies with a bonus 100% damage against armored enemies. There is a minus 16% dodge ailment that is given to all enemies for 3 turns and a plus 16% dodge buff given to all allies for 3 turns. In addition to that, the caster, so Sarge, will resist charge effects for the next 3 turns. So, breaking that down a little bit, we'll start with the damage because that's the easy place to start. So damage is actually very hard to quantify and to normalize across multiple heroes just because of a lot of factors like defense stats and modifiers and RNG and all that sort of thing. What you can do though is you can calculate a metric called their attack power. Now attack power is just their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their special skill. This is something that does feed into the damage calculation, and it does work out that higher attack power equals higher damage. Which is how we can use it to compare heroes. To normalize it though, because all the heroes have different speeds, the way of doing that is I just divide it by the number of tiles to charge their special skill. So in Sarge's case, we take the 755 attack multiplied by 200%, so that comes out with an attack power of 1550. Dividing that by the 9 tiles to charge his skill, and we get an attack power per tile, or APPT, of 172. Which is the best of the DOA 5 attackers in the game. And most of that is as a result of his speed, is what the biggest improvement in that is. Sarge does have a very fast speed compared to all of the other DOA 5 purple hitters. The next closest would be Krampus, and he comes in at 10 tiles, but his attack power is 114. So, 60 odd points lower than what Sarge's base damage is. In instances where Sarge is attacking an armored enemy, that ratchets up from 172 APPT up to 252 attack power per tile per enemy. So all of these are on a per enemy basis. It's not a total. It's just on any one of the 5 different enemies or however many there are. Some other options in DOA 5 hitters, I mentioned Krampus. You've also got Tungsten, who was released a similar time. That's 104. Barbie comes down at 95. Delphine, who's the second best attacker, comes in at 124. And Vigo is down the bottom there at 94 attack power per tile per enemy. So, Sarge is a pretty good hitter in terms of both his base damage output and also when hitting armored enemies. It is also worth noting that while he does have the highest standard damage of the purple DOA hitters, he's actually very highly ranked amongst all of the DOA 5 hitters. So not just in purple, but in all of the colors. So this one here shows him when he's hitting an armored enemy, he comes out better than Scarlet, which is an insanely high threshold to be better than for DOA 5. Because Scarlet hits 5 enemies 3 times at 136% each hit. Sarge comes in just with a 300% strike and says, thank you very much, and just wipes the floor. We can see with his base damage output, he is a little bit lower, comes in at number 3, behind Scarlet and Jack. And Jack's is interesting because he attacks based off his defense stat. So, yeah, a very, very good hitter, regardless of the color, in terms of a DOA 5 hitter. Moving on from his damage to the next line or next pair of lines in his skill. I'm going to combine these next two because they're interchangeable. So second line is a minus 16% dodge to all enemies, and third line is a plus 16% dodge to all allies. Don't really need to say too much about dodge. We all know how amazing dodge is when it's on your team and how painful it can be when it's on the opposing team. A hero who combines both the positive and negative forms of dodge is pretty valuable, not just because of him dodging or your allies dodging incoming damage, which reduces the damage received. It actually also enhances your damage output by reducing the chances of the enemy heroes dodging. So it's kind of like reduced damage that you take and increased damage that you give out. So it is a very, very good pairing of buffs to have. There is the caveat that you obviously have to hit the enemy on the first instant to give them the negative dodge element, so there is a chance that they'll dodge it, which will make all of that null and void. The final line of his skill is a self buff to resist charge effects for 3 turns. This specifically is charge ailments. Positive effects are still all applied. Interestingly, this is the same effect as what Vasquez gives off. It's the only other instance of this buff in the game, but Vasquez does it to all enemies, whereas Sarge only does it to himself. Sorry, Vasquez does it to all allies, not enemies. This buff does protect against all charge effects, including charge cutting skills from like the Spy talent, charge debuffs, delayed charge cut ailments, but also the insanity element. So it is quite wide-ranging in its effect, and it can be quite useful at alleviating the impact of enemy heroes and skills, and ensuring that Sarge does get to cast 2, 3, 4 times in a battle. So overall, I actually don't mind Sarge. I think that his damage output is quite good. The only real issue with it is the lack of AoE 5 EDD, or so elemental defense down, or even normal defense down heroes in purple. This would really enhance his damage output, like we can see with, the combination of 8-bit and a DOA 5, or Rudolph and a DOA 5. This really isn't, though, an issue with Sarge. It's more an issue with the purple element generally, so can't really keep that against Sarge himself. The dodge up, dodge down, great combination. Charge resist, nice little touch on the end there. It is a little weird that it's only to himself when you look at all of his other skills, which are all, all allies or all enemies. So normally you would see the same wording used or the same targeting used throughout an entire special skill, but maybe they thought doing it to all allies would be just a little bit too much, which it might have been. So yeah, so really the only downside to Sarge is the lack of purple EDD or DD options, and that's not a failing of Sarge's, that's more a failing of the purple element generally, because DOA 5 hitters really need enhancement to deal out their maximum damage and be really devastating. So anyway, for Sarge's grading, I am going to grade him with a B+ for war and raid attacks. This is probably one of the highest DOA 5 grades that I'll give out for attackers. I tend to rate them a little bit lower because they're lower damage per enemy, which makes them less impacting in a specific moment. So that's actually a really good grade for Sarge. For War Machines, I'm going to drop him down to a B-, just because you're relying on his attack stat more than anything else, but also that dodge buff. Eventing, I'm going to give him a B- as well. Attack stat and DOA 5 is what's carrying him there. And War and Raid Defenses, I'm going to give him a B. He's probably best suited to the flank position, may also work as a winger, but that might be a little bit too late for him to fire with the dodge buff ailment sort of thing. So flank, I think, is his best spot, where he can fire 2 or 3 times in a fight. Moving on to the tournaments, in bloody battle situations, I'm going to give him a B+ for attack and a B for defense. For buff booster, I'm going to bump that up to an A- for attack and a B for defense again. And then for charged attack, I'm going to give him a B+ and a B. So no change in his grading for charged attack. And that's mainly because he does get some benefit, but it's not a massive benefit to his speed. So overall, that grading comes in as a B for an attack and a B for a defense grade. So that concludes the content that I have for this review of Sarge. As always, this is just my personal opinion on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them, so please jump down into the comments section of this video, drop me a note. I love reading them, and I always try to reply to as many of you as I can. If you did enjoy this video and found its content to be useful, like the video, subscribe to my channel for some other videos like this, but also share the video around, because chances are, if this video was useful for you, it'll also be useful to your Alliance members and the people that you play the game with. Thank you once again for joining me for this review. I do hope I will see you soon in another video, but until then, stay safe, good luck, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!